Hey guys, this is Crap Hunter, and welcome back to World of Tanks! Woo! Now, today we're going to be having a look at the IS3. Yes, the Russian Tier 8 heavy tank. She is one of two choices of heavy tank lines, one of them being the T150 to KV3, KV4, STI, and IS4, or I just call the KV line. Or you can go up the IS line, which has the famous KV1S, IS, IS3, IS8, and then the IS7. I would definitely say for this tank, though, she is probably one of the more famous ones, as I have seen her in so many matches. She's kind of the staple of Tier 8s. I mean, obviously, there are people who will say, oh, I've seen more Tiger 2s and T32s, or whatever, but for team battles, for example, this is the tank you will see a lot. And in most Tier 8 matches, or Tier 8 games, you will see this tank. So she is certainly one of the more commonly seen tanks on the field. Let's have a little look at the vehicle description. Mass production of the vehicle started in May 45, so just after the war. On September 7th, 45, she took part in the Allied parade through Berlin. So she didn't serve during the Second World War, but she was there at the end of it in the parade. A total of 1,170 vehicles were manufactured by the end of 46. When production was cancelled from 48 to 50, the tanks underwent a number of modernization refits. Well, it makes sense to upgrade and, make do and all that. So, although she never really saw combat, she certainly probably struck a certain presence to those who were at the parade in 1945. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, onto hit points. You have 1,500. That's alright. That's average. That's kind of in the middle with that one. You're certainly not going to be able to take multiple heavy shots from it, but still, that's certainly enough to be able to take at least one or two pretty heavy hits. Let's see how you fare in comparison to your Tier 8 counterparts. Let's start with the French going down. The AMX 5100, which only has one turret, has 1,400 hit points, so not as many as you, which it's not surprising, as the French don't often get their tanks. But that said, looks an interesting tank. Oh, I forgot about the Chinese. I do apologise. You actually can select these now. The 110, which is pretty much an upgraded version of the IS3, has 1,450, but with the turret upgrade, which gives them 100 hit points, that is 1,550, so 50 hit points better than you. But as it's Chinese, it kind of makes sense that it would be slightly better than you. The Americans, no, Deutschland, with two types of Tigers, the VK4502A has 1,470, but when you upgrade it, it gives it another one, which it gives it 100 hit points more, so I'm going to say 1,570 if I'm not mistaken. The Koenigsegger, I've seen so many times, has 1,600 hit points when it has a fully upgraded turret, so better than you and better than you on those two tanks. The Carnarvon, Tier 8 British heavy tank, has 1,500 to start with, and when it upgrades its turret, once again, like the Koenigsegger, it has it has 1,600 hit points, so it's better than you. For America, the T32 has 1,400 hit points from the stock. Oops. And 100 hit points added on, which gives it 1,500 in total. So the Americans are as good as you. And the Russians have the KV4, which from stock has 1,600 hit points. Now, I don't know whether the turret upgrade gives it much more health. I'm thinking possibly, but I can't remember. I don't believe it does. But if I am wrong, feel free to put it in the comment section down below. So yes, most of the tanks out there are better than you, which is a shame. But like I said before, as I said, the hit points you get on this thing, they're not super great. You're not as good as the Germans or the British or even your counterpart, but at the same time, you can still take a number of hits, and you are equal with that of the Americans. So as long as you don't go completely stupid and go YOLO into the nearest E100. You should be able to survive long enough to deal out some damage as well as take some. Going on to weight, you weigh 49.8 tons with 3 equipment modules attached, and your maximum tonnage limit is 53.9. This, in combination with your Tier 9 700 horsepower, gives you a very decent 38 kilometers per hour speed limit. Yeah, this thing is a little light, isn't it? Yeah, this thing, one of the features about the IS3 that you'll notice rather quickly is just how fast this thing is. For a heavy, mind, you are classified as a heavy tank, so you would be very surprised, or you would be, well, you'd be lulled into the false sense of security to think that this thing will be slow like the Tiger, the T-32, especially as slow as the KV-4. But no, this is actually quite fast for a Tier 8 medium. Heavy. Yeah, exactly. You can confuse the two. So that's very good for this. That's definitely one of the stronger perks of this vehicle. Another good perk is the 30 traverse speed. That, on a heavy, you're in bloody heaven there. Absolute fantastic. But yes, that's one of the things I do like about this thing. It's a good. I mean, knowing me, you know me, guys. If you have watched my videos before, you'll no doubt know that I am a big fan of high traverse speed vehicles. It's just the thing I like. So to have that on a heavy tank is certainly going to prove to be a useful advantage. Now, onto the armor. Despite being a lighter and quite a fast machine, at least for a heavy, you also get a fairly decent amount of armor on you as well, especially around the turret. Let's have a little look-see. You get 249 millimeters of armor at the front, 179 to the sides, 100 to the rear. For the armor, not as much, but still quite impressive, especially considering how angled it is. 110 to the front, 90 to the sides, 60 to the rear. How much armor though do you have? Well, let's go on to Tank Inspector to find out. So here we are on Tank Inspector. Here is the IS3, and here are the IS3's values. It's actually an updated Tank Inspector as well, which is quite nice. But anyway, we'll go into this and try and get this through as painless as possible. So what we'll do is we'll go through all the values. First of all on the turret, then to the hull. Then we'll show you where to aim if you want to shoot this thing, and also a new feature on this, how much gun depression and elevation this vehicle has. So for the turret, the 249 millimeters at the front pretty much does what it says on the tin. At the primary front of the vehicle, there is 249 millimeters, so pretty much impossible to penetrate. Which basically shows this little side bit here as here, and also it goes behind the gun to a degree as well. So pretty much impossible to penetrate on that one. Going to the 172 millimeters of side armor for the turret, the side armor actually only covers a very small lip of the turret, as the turret for some reason has multiple layers, which interestingly actually get worse in armor value as you go up the turret. But yeah, the thin strip of one, which in the tank kind of covers the turret ring of the vehicle there, on that one and on the other side as well. Going to the rear armor of the turret, you can also see that once again there is another finished strip on the back of the IS3's turret, which the actual proper half of the turret is only given 70 millimeters worth of armor. Even though that there is a lot of angling, pretty much the higher you go on the turret, the weaker the armor gets on that. So yeah, well, that said, that despite the armor values getting going lower the higher you go up on the turret, it's still quite a bouncy turret, especially especially when you're facing, if you're in like a tier 7 tier, like if you're in a top tier in tier 8 match, or to a degree with RNG, with some trolling RNG, you can actually get bounces off the side there. But unfortunately, the higher you go, aiming towards near the cupola area, if your gun has over 200 millimeters, more often than not, it will penetrate and do damage. So take care when it comes to that. Going on to the hull, The 110mm at the front, once again, covers the entire front, but also, interestingly enough, covers the upper half of the turret as well, which is quite interesting on that one. But with regards to the piked nose, there's two little bits of information, one of which trivial, one of which important. I'll go for the trivial first. A while back, back in, I can't remember which patch now, patch 8. No, I think 8.23 maybe. I think that's when they changed it. The IS3 actually had a super high piked nose. This frontal pike isn't the same as the one in real life. The pike nose actually ended here, I believe, which meant that this armor value here, and it applies and it features a little bit more in the IS8 in the next tank, but you know, in this one it's been lowered for some reason. This value, that meant that the armor value on the side here at the piked actually was really good. But anyway, since it's been lowered, it's kind of made it either slightly easier to penetrate or more frustrating. I found it was easier to kill these things after the patch, so it must have been a bit of a nerf. But anyway, speaking of this armor value, one of the stronger aspects of this frontal armor is the angling. This thing kind of relies on the angling to really become super effective. Now, more often, sadly, the armor value isn't fantastic. Certainly not as good as the turret, but still it's good enough to hopefully bounce a few shots from lower tier vehicles. But one of the things you've got to be careful when driving this vehicle, and it's a lot easier said than done, I've done it as well, is when you're going round corners or when you're engaging tanks, angling your frontal armor. If there's a way you can hide it so that way, if there's a way you can hide this section of your armor and instead only allow the enemy to see this section of your armor, then brilliant, because that means you'll have an instant bounce. But unfortunately, if you angle your armor trying to get into that diamond formation that would normally increase the effective armor thickness of a Tiger or even a T-32 or more famously the E-75, instead it actually has a counter. It kind of counters your armor thickness because you're basically lowering the amount of angle it takes for your vehicle to. It lowers the amount of armor that your vehicle has. If you were pointing at the front, you'd be able to get over 160, 170 millimeters worth of armor protection. But if you angle it as you're going around a corner, you're getting 150, barely 160. So it pretty much guarantees that you're going to be penetrated by a tier 8 tank or even a tier 7 tank. So be careful when you go into circumstances like that. Angling your armor isn't as good idea as it thought. So be aware for that. Going down to the 90mm on the side, the 90mm actually cover once again they do the thin kind of strip motion on this thing, covered mostly by the tracks and the bouncy spaced armor. Now, one thing to note with this vehicle, this armor here is spaced and it is surprisingly absorbent. It's like a sponge for some things. I mean, it doesn't work all the time, but there are moments where you'll be shot in the side and for some reason it won't go through. Not sure why that is, but troll, RNG moment, it can happen. I've had it where I've shot someone on this. I've shot an IS3 on the side with my BL9 and it does nothing. God damn it. It's frustrating. So, yeah, a slight advantage to a degree, but not like a major one. But anyway, going back to the side armor, mostly covered by the tracks and the spaced armor, little tiny gaps in between. The treads actually take a fair amount of punishment for you as well, which is quite nice. If you side scrape effectively with this thing on the corner, you'll be able to the tracks will take the punishment, and they've done this. The tracks, I've not had too much issue with the tracks dying me on too early, so pretty awesome track for that one. And then going to the rear, also it covers the top of your driver's engine as well. The rear of an IS3 pretty much, once again, does what it says on the tin. The rear side of an IS3. Very little angling at the back, not the thing you want to be showing towards the enemy. So, what about for people trying to kill this thing? How best to kill this thing? Where are its weak points? You're probably asking. Well, I'll fill that in for you now. A number of things you've got to be aware about are the turret. When it comes to the turret, you've actually got a number of things that will work to your advantage. First of all, you've got the 110mm worth of armor here, which pretty much, if you've got a gun, as I said, over 200mm, you will penetrate and do damage. Better still, if you shoot this section, which in the game is just that, try and go for a cupola shot, has weak armor here. If you go to the other side, same deal, not as large as the other one, but, you know, same deal, you'll be able to penetrate and do damage. One big weakness of this vehicle is this, the top of the turret. If you have a vertical shot, if you are in the most amazingly fortunate position of the, like for example, being in an being either in an SU-152 or an ISU with a derp gun, or with a stock gun, as I should say. The turret, the top half turret of the IS3, which is marked even in the normal game with this lovely, well, okay, I know what kind of 12-year-old kid will giggle towards this, but this mantlet here, along with a hatch, actually marks out where a good weak point is for this vehicle, and it's only 20mm thick. Even angled, if you're on a hill and you have that, you only have 23mm worth of armor, and it's got that triple times, which, if it says there, it'll just, no ricochet will happen. It'll literally, bang, you penetrate, regardless. And it's a very big weakness for the IS3 drivers. You've got to be exceptionally careful. Scumbags will probably love this, so I'm sorry, IS3 drivers, if I've just revealed your secret. But yeah, scumbags will love this factor, and you can guarantee that a fair amount of them will probably hit this bit, possibly causing an ammo rack. You never know. So, big weakness there on this one. Another big weakness, going on to the hull armor now, another big weakness you've got to be careful about when driving in an area that you want to try and shoot at for this vehicle is roughly around about here, around this section of the IS3, same for the other side as well. This is because this is where the ammunition is stored, so there is a higher chance that you can actually ammo rack the IS3. I've done it once, but it often happens when you know where to aim for. I have also suffered a couple of occasions where I've been ammo racked, not killed in ammo racked, but ammo racked for damaged. So definitely keep your eyes peeled around there if you want to get a nice shot in to knock them out. But really, when it comes to facing off against the IS3 on the hull, just get around them. Just get around slightly around so that you lower the effective thickness of its frontal armor and aim for this section of the tank, which is pretty much there. You guarantee to get some kind of penetration on your end, or you go for the tracks and go for a rear shot around the side, the flank shot around the sides. A good area to go for as well would be to get an engine shot would be around here. You also get a chance of setting the enemy tank on fire, which is pretty awesome. So certainly a good weak spot to go for there. So going on to the last part, which is my new part now, elevation and gun depression. Now, Russia doesn't exactly have the best of reputations for gun depression, and the IS3 kind of suffers the same thing. Using this new feature, we can see that the IS3 only has barely 5mm of gun depression, so it just can't aim down. This is the biggest problem with the IS3. If an IS3 is trying to get up and get across a hill to shoot at you, it's just not likely to happen. If you're on a hill, it'll be like that. It won't be able. If you're on a hill, it'll be difficult for the IS3 driver to shoot at you, which is why if you're in a situation like that, don't try it unless you can get up the hill without the enemy being able to react fast enough. One good thing though is that the IS3 has a ridiculous gun elevation. You could shoot the Luftwaffe down in this thing. It is that ridiculous. So yeah, if you're in an elevated engagement and you've got enemy tanks looking at you, you can point your turret up and shoot them from a distance there. So that's pretty awesome on that one. So anyway, that's about it for the IS3 in the Tank Inspector. I will see you guys back in the game. Now, on to view range and signal range. Well, okay, well let's go to the view range first. Now, as a Russian driver, you'll no doubt completely know what I'm about to say. Or you'll no doubt know what it's like. You haven't really got much view range. Russia is not known for having good view range, and the IS3 is no exception. 350. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Not too good. Well, you know, let's compare it. That said, though, let's compare it to your Tier 8 counterparts to see how you fare in comparison. Just don't hold your breath. So yeah, the 110 has 380. Oh dear. What about the AMX 5100 with its Leism? 380. Oh dear. This isn't looking good. VK4502A has 390. Oh dear. So the duck tank actually quacks you out of business. The Königstiger follows suit with 390. Not too good. So Germany is certainly good at looking at people. That sounded wrong, didn't it? The Carnarvon, how does the British fare? Surely they've got rapid-fire weapons, slow vehicles, and very good view range. Bugger. So yes, the British beat you in view range. What about Yankee? Yankee. Where it goes? Americans. T119. Ah, shit. Better than you. What about your Tier 8 counterpart, the KV-4? Well, the KV-4, with its upgraded turret, has the same view range as you. So if you are trying to find any small consolidation, you're as good as each other. Yeah, the IS-3 is not known for beating people purely based on its view range, so don't rely on it in combat. Really don't. As best, try and work if you are going to be fighting, use your speed and maneuverability to get close to people, because that way then you can see them. I mean, you're not like a blind bat, but against your Tier 8 counterparts, you will struggle quite badly. So open areas is not exactly a thing you camping this thing, which is another thing I want to add to this one actually. Big tip: don't camp. Thumbs up. This thing is not designed for camping, so whenever you get the chance, move up, push the line, don't hold back, because this thing will not work for it. You just can't get it to work, alright? Don't think about it. You may see, someone else may spot someone, but don't think it's you spotting it. You know, even with binoculars, don't even bother. Just don't camp, alright? Big tip for this thing. I'm looking at you. Anyway, let's go on to the signal range. And in a weird contrast, normally the Russian tankers out there would expect that the signal range would be quite shit as well. But in fact, it's not. It's actually quite good. You get a Tier 10 radio, which is pretty darn good, and it gives you 730 signal range. Now, Russia isn't perfect with the signal, I'm not going to deny, but for 730, that's pretty much ample for most, if not all of the maps you're going to be going into. I think there are very few maps that will have 730 signal range being an issue. But let's have a little comparison to your counterparts to see how they fare. So let's go to the Chinese with their upgraded IS3. Well, it's pretty much the same as an IS3. And they get a Tier 10 radio as well, and it's 750. So better than you by 20. Not so good. What about the AMX 5100? They have the same access to a Tier 10 radio, and oh dear indeed, 750, better than you by 20. But not, you know, it's not like a big problem. It's certainly not as bad as being like a Tier 9 radio for Russia, because we all know what happens with that. The VK4502A gets a FUG-12, which actually isn't as good as you. You are better than it by 20. So the duck tank is, well, ducked. That was terrible, I do apologise. But still, the FUG-12 on the Königstiger is worse than yours. So, you know, the Germans aren't so good when it comes to listening. That's probably why they lost. Anyway. Going to the Carnarvon, what do the British have? They have a Tier 10 radio as well, which is 750. Oh dear. What about the Yankees? The Americans get access to a Tier 10 radio, which is actually 745, so not as bad. You know, 15 worse than, or better than you. And your Tier 8 equivalent gets the same access to a Tier 8 radio. So no one really... You're not, as I said, you're not, once again, you're not as good as everyone else, but you're not as bad. You're not so bad. You're actually, in fact, you're better than the Germans, which is pretty useful. I mean, it's not like the most important thing in the game, but to have a decent signal range after spending so long having rather poor signal ranges, to have that really does help, especially in certain things as team battles or when you're working in a platoon, to have decent communication with your group, which is very, very good indeed. Certainly adds a bonus to this vehicle, but still, you have quite terrible signal range, so rely on your teammates to spot for you. Now, onto my favourite part of any review, the gun. Now, just to give you a little heads up, if you have gone through the KV-1S and gotten yourself the D25T, went on to go through the IS but didn't research the Top Gun, you'll be happy to note that the D25T is available from the KV-1S on the IS3 as a stock gun. You deserve a slap if you really think that that's the only gun you can get as a stock gun on the IS3. Now, if you've had a brain and went through the IS like myself and got the D25T, it will be one of the stock weapons you will have instant access to upon purchasing the IS3. You do also have access to the 100mm D10T from the IS or the T44 if you've gone through that already. But in all fairness, I'm going to say that you really shouldn't bother with this gun for the IS3, because you've already used the IS's gun, the D25T. I mean, if we do a little comparison, you've already used the D25T a lot in Tier 8 and 7 games, and unfortunately you might have had to use it in a Tier 9 game. So you're no stranger to you're no stranger to the penetration. And the high damage and decent accuracy and aiming time, well, for a Russian gun I will add, is, you know, you're used to it by now. So to completely to completely change the board and go for a gun which, yes, can fire faster, has better accuracy and a better aiming time, but much lower damage, you know what, I don't really think that this gun with 140 less damage is worth it, you know. Maybe it's cheaper to run, but you're used to this gun by now, so I'm just gonna assume that you guys are just gonna use this gun and this gun only until you get to the Top Gun. As per usual routine for grinding through this thing will be tracks, turret, and then gun, or tracks, gun, then turret, because you're gonna have to worry about it. One word of advanced warning. It will be painful. The grind to the BL9 is very long. For you guys out there who haven't grinded a Tier 8 tank before, or haven't gone, you know, this high at all with anything, the guns generally are very painful to grind. Especially if it's a Tier 9 gun or a Tier 10 gun, it's very painful to grind. Because generally speaking, the research required for them is generally around the region of late 50,000s, early 60,000s for research points. Now with the this tank, it's not so bad, but it's still quite a grind. So, you know, I mean, the best thing to do is just kind of get the tracks and then focus on getting the gun. The turret is kind of important, kind of not really important. I would advise getting the BL9 first, because, you know, having a great, very powerful turret doesn't really do you many favors when you can't really penetrate much vehicles. So, you know, definitely get the gun first. But when you get the gun, oh boy, it is fantastic. Yes, this is for a Tier 8 tank. This is a fantastic gun, the BL9. Let's do a little comparison to its D25T, just to show you how awesome this thing is. Right, so the D25T, you lose a little bit of rate of fire, but you gain lots more penetration. You get 225 on that one. Damage is the same, but the accuracy is very much improved. It's just brilliant. It's just fantastic. And the aiming time is the same, but this gun is much better in every facet and form than this one. And it certainly puts you in a very much better position than your Tier 8 counterparts. In fact, even Tier 9 games. Although it's not easy to penetrate many vehicles, you can certainly give the enemy a run for their money. And 390 on average damage, that kind of roll, even on a Tier 9 or 10 tank, is certainly a nasty sting. So, yeah, this thing is absolutely fantastic for that. I will once again, however, reiterate my previous point. Do not camp with this gun. Alright? It's bad accuracy. Now, the reason why I'm saying this now, for any of you who are wondering, is because I have noticed a number of players out there using this thing as a camper tank. This happens a bit more with the IS and KV-1S, but still, this gun is not designed to go long range. If you make a long range shot, you were lucky, and RNG wanted to be okay with you. You know, wanted to give you a nice present. But generally speaking, medium to close range engagements is this thing's specialty. So don't go camping. Leave that to the Tigers. Leave that to the even leave that to the Americans. This gun, go close. You have the maneuverability, use it. So yeah. So yeah, this is a very good gun regardless though. Very good gun, and certainly is one of my favourite perks to this vehicle. Now, onto equipment and crew skills. This is basically where I tell you guys what stuff I recommend to give to your tank, what skills and perks to give to your crew members to help put them to optimum performance. Going on to equipment first, you naturally want to have for the first two slots a ventilation class 3 and a large caliber gun rammer. No argument, you just do it. The third option is, as always, up to you, but here's what I would recommend. For the number one recommendation, getting yourself an enhanced gun laying drive is a good idea. It basically adds 10% to aiming speed, which means you get to aim down the sights faster. Huzzah! But if you are very much a flanking person, then or a person who drives this thing around like a medium, then this feature, the Vertical Stabilizer Mark II, may be a good option for you. Now, I am not entirely 100% sure as to whether this thing is, well, super useful or not, as I'm so used to the enhanced gun laying drive, I've already gone ahead and got the thing, and I didn't even notice it until earlier parts of this review. So, yeah, if you want to have this instead of the enhanced gun laying drive, it would not be a bad idea, as it adds accuracy to turret during turret rotation. So, yeah, that would be my first recommendation. My next recommendation, well, you don't need binocs. I'm just going to reiterate the camping thing. You should not have binocs on this vehicle because it's just pointless. You're going to be an aggressive tank. That's your job. Maybe if you are suffering, but for the second recommendation, heavy spore liner. If you are suffering, if you have a certain fear of artillery, and also because of that massive weakness on the top there, like I said earlier, you may wish to install a heavy spore liner to make artillery players froth at the teeth, or people who use high explosive to try and troll. So, the heavy spore liner basically adds protection to your crew and your vehicle from ramming and explosions. So yeah, that'll be something useful for that. Pretty much for everything else, I wouldn't say it's really that worth it. I mean, there are benefits it'll have, but it's not really going to help you out tons of which. So my number one recommendation to have would be either an enhanced gun laying drive or Vertical Stabilizer Mark II. My second recommendation, heavy spore liner. Going on to your crew, you only have 4 crew slots in this, and your radio man is taken up by your commander, which kind of, for this case, is it's not as good because your shit view range, but what can you do? You have to work with it. For your commander, regardless of the fact that he's also a radio man, you've got to train him up in a skill that doesn't really matter, either repairs or firefighting, or probably not mentor, because even though that's a skill, or recon, because when you drop them out for Sixth Sense, which is the #1 recommended stuff you get to get, you'll miss out on something. So get yourself something like repairs till it hits 100%, then train another skill like firefighting or even camo if you forget, for till like your 40% to avoid having that little penalty problem. After which, maybe for this vehicle, obviously it's up to you on the next one, but a good recommendation would be to get situational awareness, as you are also the commander. So to be able to have good view range, that'll help out a lot for that one. For the gunner, you will probably want to have something like repairs or snapshot. Probably snapshot would be a good idea for you. For the first skill, because it improves your accuracy during turret rotation, which also works really well with the vertical stabilizer, but also could act as its own vertical stabilizer if you want. Get that to 100%, then drop the skill, train up the other skill for 40, then drop it for Dead Eye. This basically gives increases the chances of you buggering up a tank properly when you shoot it. After which you want to do the same process again to get Designated Target. This basically gives your ability of your crew or the tank for yourself or your allies around you to get the last bastard, as it keeps them visible for an extra 2 seconds. Going on to driver, you will want to increase all the driving skills as possible, so get yourself clutch braking. That's just regardless of the situation, get clutch braking. The next thing you probably want to have, and this is a bit more up to you on this one, I've opted to go for off-road driving. This basically reduces ground resistance when driving on soft and moderately soft terrain. It just adds extra maneuverability to your vehicle and acceleration. Which really kind of is awesome. But if you are one of those people who likes to shoot on the move, you also can get Smooth Ride. Once again, this also works rather well with vertical stabilizer. So there are 2 skills in this already that kind of work to your advantage if you have the vertical stabilizer. Thinking about it, I might need to get that on my next tank. But anyway, so yes, Smooth Ride and all that, and afterwards, to be honest with you, you either get that, then you get that skill, or you get this skill, and then you get Smooth Ride. After which, just get yourself something like repairs, and then swap it for preventative maintenance. Finally, for your loader, you want to get yourself something like repairs, or camo, or even firefighting till you hit that to 100%. After which, you want to swap it out for safe stowage. This basically increases the chances... increases the ammo rack's durability, thus saving you 600,000 credits on getting yourself a wet ammo rack. After which you want to do the same process to get the Adrenaline Rush. This basically allows you to be able to reload faster when your tank has less than 10% of its hit points left. So yeah, that's all the equipment and crew skills that I would recommend for this vehicle. So, that's it for the review side of this vehicle. Let us take you to a replay, and possibly a live play. So yeah, we'll take you to a replay, then we'll take you to a live play. So I will see you in the replay. And we're back, and we are on the replay segment of this video. I am in a replay in a platoon with Biddenwar. He was in his KV4, I was in IS3 fully upgraded. I think his was fully upgraded as well. We were in encounter on Lakeville. We're the top tier, so hopefully this was shaping up to be quite a nice game already. And hopefully what this can show is the versatility of this vehicle during different phases of combat, and one of the strengths it has in more openish areas, in townish areas, as I should say. So we're pushing into the town on the left-hand side, and to be honest with you, I always kind of prefer to push into the town anyway, regardless of whether it's the objective or not, because I always find that this section of the map is a lot more... Well, I can work better in this part of the town, or this section of the map, than I could if I went down the valley. Like, I rarely go down the valley when I'm playing this map, so... Now we've just spotted a couple of preliminary contacts, one T-44 with an AMX 1375. I try and see if there's any chances of getting a shot in, but no chance there. and our opponents slowly entering into the town. Unfortunately, a couple of our heavies taking their time to get into the town as well, but what can you do? So at this point, I'm kind of slowly poking around the corner, just trying to make sure I don't get shot as I'm going around by anyone waiting, trying to see if I can get in. I spot the AMX 5100, unfortunately take a shot, and sadly the building just took it away from me, which was frustrating. I tried to side scrape here, and that's why I'm not so good at it. T-44 tries to have a go at me, tries to come back. I shoot. Unfortunately, the shell hits the building again. He then takes a shot at my tracks, but luckily on this one, I was able to perfectly side scrape, only taking a track shot. Bidden War comes in behind me, so I withdraw out of that area, and ARL-44 for some reason decides to go YOLO and pays the price. So Bidden War then needs to move into position. I tell him, watch out Bidden, T-44. He swings his turret to get a lucky shot in on that T-44 there. Type 58 moves past him, tries to go down to the point. He sets himself up a bit for some shots. By which point I try and see if I can get a shot in on the AMX 5100 and realise not likely to do anything except get myself shot in the process. So I decide to push down towards the Type 58, and I sort of say to him, yo, Bidden, you might want to come down, see if we can outflank this group of tanks and stuff. I kind of prod slowly into the position, and Bidden's just like, come on, get going, get going. So at this point of the match, I was kind of focusing a bit too much on my right, which then unfortunately didn't give me enough time to spot or react to the T-25-2 and then enemy T-34. T-34 comes in, I very cowardly use Bidden as a cover, and he gets a shot into the enemy tracks. I start shooting there. I originally intend to go for the tracks, but then he says, don't worry about it, man, I got the tracks, you just shoot the tank. So unfortunately this T-34 is going to have a pretty bad game, which is unfortunate. IS3 from our team comes around, gets a cheeky shot into the back of him. I just focus on knocking out the T-34. Bang! Problem has been solved. We're starting to push around to the rear flank of the enemy when all of a sudden, I go, oh shit! Enemy IS3 has been spotted. So at this point, Bidden's like, I got the T-25, you take care of the IS-3. KV-3 takes a nice shot, and this is one of the better highlights of the game, in my opinion. I get a shot in, bang, on the move, knocking out the IS-3. The 1375 is trying to escape, but denied. If some of you've noticed, that's part of the introduction bit. Yeah, I'm sad at it. Anyway, so come round, the battle is pretty much won, and the AMX 5100 is taken out by our T-25. Looking back on it, I wouldn't have taken that shot now, but if it worked, it wouldn't have been a stupid shot. So anyway, the game is pretty much over on this one, and we were able to completely decimate the opposing team. But unfortunately, the team on the valley have been able to finish off the remainders of what assault did go down that went down into the valley there. So a couple of our heavies camping in the base, getting some capture points, but yeah, we kind of know where they are. They're not very well secured and not defended. I don't know. They probably could have capped. I don't know. So Bidden and I are both talking about which way to go and how best to get these bastards. And enemy KV-1S pops out into the blue. Now, if I had taken a shot, if I hadn't have been distracted by that Type 58, I probably would have been able to get the shot in and actually kill the KV-1S. But unfortunately, I dabbled a bit too much, and I made a mistake here, where I dabbled a bit to trying to find which target I was. Looking back on it, I should have just focused on KV-1S, then moved to take out the Type 58. So the Type 58 is now causing a bit of a problem, it's blockading our forces. I try and take my time, try and get a shot in. I fire, bang, RNG, trolling me a little bit. I unfortunately don't get the kill on that one, so I'd go crazy. I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch, I'll just get right up next to you so I can guarantee to kill you. So I've moved forward, and bang, kill secured. So the Ferdinand now is all that remains of their defensive forces. He takes a punting shot. Now, for some reason, I had a side shot here, but I instead go for the other one. I don't know whether that was just because I don't know. I should have gone for the right-hand side on that one. Type 58 very miraculously survives a shell to the turret of the thing. I then get a shot into the side. Bang. Got a shot into the side of the Ferdinand. And unfortunately, realizing at this point I had 5 kills, the Type 58 takes the last kill. The VK3000MP basically went all the way round there and then stumbled into the main cap zone, whereupon he was promptly killed by the KV-1S and the KV-3. So that was the end of that game. And we are back. And we are actually in good tiering, which is quite nice. Quite good indeed. So, this is a standard match on Cliff. Looking forward to having a go with this one. And we shall see if we can do anything with our lovely IS3. I do love this thing. It is one of my favourite tanks. Well, for Russia. Russia, my currently favourite Russian tank. I mean, obviously you could say, oh, what about the ISU and all that jazz that I've unlocked and everything. But really, for a heavy tank, this is really good for tier 8, and especially when you're going into team battles. Overconfident person over there, whoever. Oh, ISU. Right, okay, so we've got a bit of a split going on. Not many tier 8s going around here, which isn't I'm not too confident with that, in all fairness. Oh, God's sake. Dude, if you can tell the difference between normal chat and team chat, do it now. Right, enemy Hellcat spotted over there. I'm going to be pushing up with the T-44, try and see if we can go around the flank of this area. Luckily, I haven't been spotted as of yet. Thank God, because one of the cool things, because I've got 6th Sense on my IS3, which is actually one of 3 now. I'm actually starting to build up a nice reserve of crews with experience now. So I'm going to keep going, and kind of slow down a bit. Because one mistake I always make in my mediums, which I always pay for, and it's a very bad habit, is I go around the corner completely oblivious to what might be there. And as expected, fire. Oh, very luckily got away with that. Right, I'm just gonna let my tracks naturally fix up because I'm now undeniable. Because if you don't take, a good tip is if you don't take damage from it, don't worry about unless of course there are the rare occasions. Pull back, pull back. Now I've been spotted. Pull back, pull back, pull back, pull back, pull back, pull back, pull back. There's only 2 of us. They've got 2 heavies. Right, he's donked his first shot. The other guy didn't. Under glacier shot went high, hit his upper glaciers. T-44's there. I'm just going to knock some things back. Could do with some support. We have got an ISU, so we're luring him back. But yeah, and there you go. Nice shot. Pull back, and he donked his shot. Brilliantly well done. Well done, ISU. Just what we needed. That completely killed the confidence of the enemy team right there. So we've knocked out one of their tier 8s, been spotted. Pull back into some defensive positioning. Well, at the moment, we haven't really got enough strength to push up properly. And I'm kind of making I don't know whether I should push up or not. I'll just nudge into it. The problem is they've got a lot of TDs. So when the enemy fall back, generally speaking, TDs are watching. So you've got to be careful. Keep prodding. Keep prodding. We're pushing up on their left line, which is nice. And first person, so if I can spy. Really do not need a lag spike right about now, touch wood. Oh, fuck. I took my first shot. Right, move up. Try to see if I can get the kill. And take your time, take your time. No shot. He'll have reloaded by now. Pull back. Move into position. Get a shot in. Fire! T-44. Don't go there. I unfortunately take a shot from him. right on the driver's controller. Right, yeah, the enemy are now locking themselves down. These guys need to push up. Good shot, ISU. Currently just holding this corner right now. The guys in the middle really need to push up, though. I daren't type. We've lost the middle as well, which means the enemy could quite easily outflank us. T-44 is falling back, but our team is not moving, and we really need them to move up. They've been either stopped by a number of TDs. So far... Oh, bollocks. That is a Borsig. I'm going to go take a shot and fire. Miss on the other one as well. Oh, artillery is having a go. Right. T-34 is coming up, trying to be cheeky. I'll try and see if I can move up. He hasn't fired as of yet. Okay, Borsig is taking a severe punishment, which is good. He's really knackered himself. Right, we're going to try and push up. Is that the 30? No, that's a Hellcat. Right, there's the 30. Right, I'll let the ISU take care of that, or is he just greedy for it? Fuck. Donked the shot. Right, go for the 30, go for the 30, go for the 30, go for the 30. No! Oh, bollocks. Right, okay. Oh, shit, he's going to fire. Pull back. Yeah, I'm going to die soon. And I'm dead. Unfortunately, not too well. I really don't know why this team didn't move up. They had the advantage of shit tons of mobility. IS3 should have camped. I mean, I don't know. I didn't feel confident enough going around the corner, taking unnecessary damage. I tried to get a shot. If I had gotten a shot in on that T-34, the ISU could have perhaps moved in and focused more on the enemy Ferdinand. But unfortunately, not meant to be. Good, close game though. Really disappointed though that the team down in the middle didn't push up, because there was literally, they didn't have to like overwhelm them, but if they saw that the Borsig and the Ferdinand were where I was, I would have pushed up and put pressure on them. But of course, unfortunately now, our team isn't really going to probably be able to recover from this. IS3, who's done, well, I get suspicious of tanks that don't get damaged until later on into the game, because generally speaking, good shot by the Gewehrpanzer. I get suspicious of tanks like that. What are you doing? There you go. Oh, hang on. Watch out. Too late. Too late. Yeah, unfortunately this game is lost, which is a real shame. Not happy though with what the central team did. You know, they put too much pressure. It's a lucky bounce. They put too much pressure on things, but they had loads of pressure on the left-hand side, and didn't take advantage of that, which is a real shame. It is a real shame, but you know, what can you do? Of course, I'm trying to keep myself cool on that. But yeah, the Gewehrpanzer did good. The ISU did brilliantly. If you are watching this ISU player, well bloody done. Lovely shot into the Tiger there on the first half. It's just a shame that the team that were on the left-hand side just didn't know how to hold a bloody balloon string. I don't know, I'm just pissed off with these bastards. They should have advanced. Really should have advanced. So, unfortunately, that was that. Did the most damage in the team. Surprised that the ISU didn't get more experience off that, as he actually did do a fair amount. Well done to the Gewehrpanzer player. Well done to the enemy team. They actually did pretty darn good. That T-34 player that kept me locked in place till like the latter part. Good job on him. I would have killed him earlier, but unfortunately to no avail. Well done to the tier 6s. It's hilarious. So it's always the way, actually. Normally when you go into tier 8 games some days, you find that you'll do more than the tier 8 heavies. That's how it is, unfortunately. But still, well played to the enemy team. They actually did pretty darn good for what they did. Shame that our team were filled with a couple of retards who didn't know how to press the forward key and shoot stuff. But what can you do, apart from rage? Anyway, that's about it for this review. So, in summary time, the IS3, a very great, a great tier 8 tank, which once you know how to use and use correctly, you can devastate the enemy team with your speed and mobility, and the gun that you get more than helps you out, well, more than does enough to be able to completely annihilate other enemy tanks. And the best part about it is its flexibility in its armor just means that you can take it into most situations, and through work of either teammates or sheer luck to a degree, you can bounce and penetrate many, to be honest with you, even tier 9 and 10 games, you can do a relatively good amount of damage against them. So, that's about it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this kind of content, feel free to let me know by typing in the comment section down below, clicking on the like button, and of course, subscribing to the channel. Any kind of feedback would be appreciated. If you yourself are a YouTuber or a World of Tanker who found certain things or hints and tips to help out, that will be appreciated. All I ask is that there is no trolling, or people just typing in really stupid comments like, oh, you shit, my grandmother could play better, all that stuff, because I'll just delete it, and your time spending on the dictionary book whilst on the bog will have been for naught. Anyway, guys, I'll see you later. This is Crap Hunter, signing out.